So I've wanted to do this project for quite a while, and I finally have a little bit of free time to do this. So I figured this is going to be, I'm going to call this the poor man's Logox. So this is a county line. They call it a log jack. It can lift logs up to 13 and 3/4 inches in diameter. Eliminates dangerous kickback. You can roll logs. You can take this leg off with the two bolts, and you can just use it as just this without, just that without the legs here. And you can roll logs with it, and you can also lift logs like they show here. But what I want to turn this thing into, since this separates, hope you guys can see that right in the middle, I'm going to turn this into the poor man's Logox. So this thing here set me back, I think, about $35 to $40, something like that. And the Logox is well over 100, 150. It might be even $200. And for what it is, it's a cool idea and cool concept and everything. However, I think it's somewhat overpriced. So for probably under, we'll call it $50, I can make a version of the Logox for 50 for what, a third to a quarter the price. Anyways, these two handles separate, and what I want to do is add another handle basically right here, so then you can pick up logs also, and it's not going to interfere with this. These two pieces screw together. So I actually have a weighs 8.5 or 8.8 pounds, and it is 4 foot 3 inches long. So I have a full-size PV that I can use, or cant hook, that I can use to roll the big logs, that is longer than the Logox one. So I just want to put a handle here, and then who knows, maybe at some point I will drill another hole here in this half, and I will put in a bolt that's with the tip that's bent in it, and I can use that to pick up logs that this thing won't pick up. This is meant for, it's a picaroon that I can use to pick up the smaller logs that this thing won't pick up. This one will be for the bigger logs, and this one will be for the smaller ones. So let's unbox this thing, and let's get started. These two, they just thread together, so really no tools involved other than the bolts here, but I can replace those with pins just like the Logox has. So I'm just unboxing this thing. In the box there'll be two halves. There'll be the picaroon hook end, a bag of hardware, and also the T leg, I guess is what they call that. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of assembling everything and getting everything, figuring out what I can do for the handle for this thing. All this is, the handle is just a piece of 1.5 inch exhaust pipe, and then just some random pieces of steel that I had laying around here. As you can see, I know I need to clean off the workbench here, but the next time I need to find a nut or bolt, they're already all out there. So my problem in this in this shop here is storage. I have a decent amount of storage, but I've learned in life you can never have enough storage. So anyways, I'm just kind of planning things, how things are going to go here, and I want to build this thing pretty strong. You don't need to use super thick steel for this. This was a piece of exhaust pipe from the 8N that my brother bought. It was like a kit that the exhaust pipe came in, and we put it in, used what we wanted out of it, and this was just an extra piece that made the exhaust too tall to go into the building. So we decided to just use, we saved it, just like I save most pieces of steel around here. and maybe in the future someday I'll use them for something. So eventually that day has come, and I just have to weld these two pieces together here. This is just some flat stock, I think less than 1/8 of an inch thick. And I just welded that to the end of that exhaust pipe, used my 90-degree clamp to get it nice and straight. I tacked it all together, and then I will take this thing over to the vise and bend the handle just how I want it, clamp it together again, and there's our handle. Pretty simple. I think finally, whenever I got around to doing that, it didn't really take me long or much time whatsoever. So this is pretty much exactly how the Logox is designed, basically, and I'm just kind of copying what they've done here for a lot less money. I mean, significantly less money. But I'm just trying to figure out a way to clamp that handle on so I can get things looking straight. You know, you have to get this flat handle put on this round piece of tube, square and straight and everything, and in line, you know, how I want it. But once you get it tacked up, at least one corner or one side of it tacked up, I can kind of bend this thing as needed and straighten it and whatnot exactly how I want it. But once I get it where it should be, where I'd like it, I'll just fully weld this. That's one thing, I fully welded everything on this, and I shouldn't have any problems in the future whatsoever with this falling apart. I even welded the back and in between those two pieces of steel, which there was quite a gap in there, so I had a lot of welding to do. Now you see me getting out a fan here. This is that original fan was one that did not work, and this new one was one that a neighbor gave me. And those old school metal cage fans, those were the best fans ever made, and they just seem to last forever. So whenever he gave this thing to me, I knew exactly what I was going to use it uh, for welding and blowing the smoke away, so I don't have to be breathing it all the time. Because the welding fumes, they like to go up underneath the mask, the helmet that I have. So something else that's neat, I picked up this bench grinder. My brother and I were driving alongside the road, and there was a free sign on this thing, or it was just sitting out on top of the guardrail. So of course we had to stop and pick that up. And believe it or not, it actually works. And the heck, even the stones on it are good, so I was pretty pleased about that. But I'm just kind of taking off the burrs and stuff on the handle here, and just trying to make things smooth, you know, so you're not going to scratch your hand or something or get cut on it. That's the problem with flux core, at least AC flux core. It kind of tends to be a real dirty weld, and you have a lot of spatter and stuff. But for what I paid for that welder, I'm not complaining. Now I'm also drilling a hole for the picaroon part of this thing here, and what I'm doing next is sharpening a carriage bolt to make the little pencil tip point on this thing so that you can jab into the end of the logs, and you can pretty easily pick them up that way also. So I have that hole drilled in the end where these two black pieces of pipe screw together. I was trying to utilize the original handle that came with this thing. It was kind of a nice squishy uh, handle, rubber. I guess that's sort of rubber. It's like a foam, like a hard foam coating on it. And it works really good. So I wanted to change the color of this thing. I don't like black tools in the woods. Generally, anything that's black in the woods you kind of forget about, and then you might hit it the next time you mow. So I really wanted to make this thing a bright color so you can see all the pieces and stuff. So I decided to paint this thing orange, just like the Logox has. I sanded off the black paint, well, I took off the gloss on it, and I'm just trying to make this thing a different color so that it is real simple or real easy to see out in the woods. Because like I said, black for in the woods and stuff really isn't a real great color. But I'm just getting everything painted up, and voila. We've got these things painted orange, and they look pretty good. Now that the orange paint is dry, I can take off the tape and paper towel here that I used to keep the orange paint off of the handle on this thing. So I'm just going to take this stuff off, and voila, there's our picaroon, pretty much done, with a nice handle and everything. And this thing does it does have some weight to it, so it'll stick into the log pretty good. So that's done. The log hauler is pretty much done. I still have to just touch up a little bit of paint on the handle here, but that's done and looks pretty good. And here is the stand for the jack. I apologize about the wind noise here. So that's done. It's almost trying to take my camera away. So let's I'll show you guys this thing in action, and you guys can see that it is pretty much just like the Logox. So as you guys can see, I've neglected cleaning up some of these logs here. And I noticed in a lot of the Logox videos and stuff, people say, you don't have to bend over. Yeah, you do, kind of. My arm doesn't magically extend down and then come back up. I have to really kind of twist this way here to pick up the log. So yeah, you still have to bend down a little bit, but it's not as bad as what the actually bending over would be. So there's one log I didn't have to bend down a whole lot to pick up, and you can throw these. There's another. So then I can take these things wherever they need to go, and move the logs around wherever they need to be. So yeah, these things they'll pick up some decent sized logs. That's this log here is a 8-inch, and it picks it right up just fine. So that works out good for this thing. Now, granted, I don't have a little holster like they sell, but do you really need something like that? Probably for some people you do. So now let's use the picaroon with the sharpened bolt that I have on the end of this thing. All I did was use a carriage bolt with another bolt, drilled a hole through here, and I could bend this thing a little bit to give it better holding capabilities, but I don't think I will. Now I could use a pin for this thing. I could use a pin on this, and that would probably work just fine. The problem with pins and stuff, where I would rather use bolts are a much more secure form of fastening two things together than pins are. Pins will loosen up, you lose the cotter key, etc., etc. Where bolts will loosen up also, don't get me wrong, but not like pins and stuff will. So, see, now I can pick these things up too. So, there's a couple there's a couple of ways that I can pick up logs now. Not that I couldn't before. And then actually I've noticed here the threads that are on this, that are on that bolt, since it's threaded the whole way, those will actually hold onto the log. So this is quite nice to have, and I think it'll come in very, very handy. And just like that, I can pick up logs and stuff. So, well, let's show you the log jack next. So here is the T-handle, T-stand, whatever they call this, and the log hauler itself. So pretty much all we do is just slide that right down in, and then I have 2 bolts here. Now I know some people aren't going to like they're not going to like the tools required to do this. Now this is a little tight here, just because the paint has taken up some space in there. So we just have to put these in, and you know, with use and stuff, these things will loosen up as time goes on. So there's one partially in, and then all I need to do next is put in the second bolt here. So we'll just put these 2 bolts in, and then just secure it with the nuts, lock nuts, and washers. So let's say I wanted to lift this log up off the ground so that I don't have to be cutting into the dirt. All I really need to do is put this on here like that. And voila! This log is now up off the ground, just like the Logox one, like they show in their videos. And I can make my cuts and stuff as needed with the chainsaw, and then that can roll back, and then I can also come down here and lift up the logs that way. I'll show you guys that again because I see that's out of frame. Pretty simple, and a very easy way to move logs and stuff. At least, you know, it's kind of a multi-use tool that you can use for pretty much processing firewood. That is the thing to use, this thing right here. So I thought this was a pretty cool project. The log hauler here, from the very end right there to here, is 27.5 inches. And I think the Logox one was like 23.5 or 24.5, and that extra couple inches down here really makes a difference, that you do not have to bend down as far to pick up the logs. I know some people are going to want to see these 2 pieces put together. I could put these together and just screw them together like this, but I'd have to take out this bolt, which I don't mind doing. I can do that, but I don't really need to do that. This is just kind of the Logox, the poor man's Logox. So for less than the Logox itself, I actually went out. This is the second one I have. This was the original, and I now have 2 PVs, can hooks, whatever you'd like to call them. I now have 2 of these things, and This one is for rolling the big logs over. This one's for carrying them and picking them up. So I hope that kind of just clears up some stuff for, I'm sure I'm going to get that question that people want to see these two together, but I already have this one. So for say $80 right there, I'm still at not even half of what the Logox is, and I have 2 of these things. So I hope everyone has enjoyed this video, and that's how you guys can save yourself at least $100 on the Logox and just make your own. The handle that I made was a piece of 1.5" exhaust pipe and the pieces of metal to hold the handle, the exhaust pipe, onto the log hauler itself. That was I just had those laying around. And I always thought that the Logox one was a little short, and this is much longer, and you actually don't have to bend down nearly as far to use it. Hope everyone enjoyed this video. Drop me some comments and give me some likes. Let me know what you guys think. So hope everyone enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And hopefully we will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.